Hello, everyone. Welcome to our handicap special Cheltenham Festival preview. I don't think we did this last year, and it was remiss of us. It was silly of us because the handicaps for many are what it's all about. And we've got 9 handicaps to get stuck into for you. I feel like we should just say God bless to the novice handicap chase, which we all loved. But thank goodness we have a mare's chase in its place. Matt Toombs is back with us. How are you, Toomsy?
Yeah, good. Excitement levels rising.
Got some good stats for you from the handicaps. Some are absolute belters as well. Trends, I feel we should say. Stats doesn't do it justice. Trends to find the underbet and overbet horses, so you're constantly seeking out value for you. Micheál Deasy is with us. How are you, Deas?
Very good, Tom. Second best week of the year. Love it. Thoroughly enjoying it today.
What's the best week of the year?
Next week.
Jazz Festival.
I thought you were going to be like Royal Ascot, something stupid. Not for you. You're the jumps man. Imagine these. Imagine these in top hat and tails.
There's 2 bumpers on at Royal Ascot. Great week for the jumps fans.
Rixie, how are you, bud? Welcome along.
I'm good. I'm buzzing. I've got Cheltenham fever setting in.
Yeah, well, you should do. We're what, 5 days away or 6 days away? I can't even work it out, but we're close. Right, before we get stuck in fact, we're going to rattle through. We've got 9 races to get through, obviously, with the handicaps. Let me remind you that all the selections we put up, and because it's a handicap special, this is not going to be. There are going to be official selections, but obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to turn up, but it's well worth checking out the insights column where we'll put up all the selections. There are plenty of prices going up, lots of ifs and buts in there as well. If you're watching on YouTube and you're liking our content, give us a thumbs up and do subscribe for free. It helps us, it helps you. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, whatever your preferred podcast app is, give us a 5-star review or a review, but preferably 5 stars. And give us a follow as well, because it makes it much easier for you to listen every time we do any of our sports podcasts. Let me do the sign-up offer first of all. So it is the £20 welcome offer. Money back as cash if your first bet loses. It's for new customers only. Use the bonus code INSIGHTS RF, the letters, Romeo Foxtrot, INSIGHTS RF. If you place your first bet and it loses, you get your stake back as cash. The full terms and conditions are on the Matchbook website. Keep your eyes peeled as well for another special offer which will be coming out relating to the Cheltenham Festival. It's a good one as well. But for now, the offer is a £20 welcome offer, money back as cash if your first bet loses. As with our Cheltenham preview then, our Grade 1 preview, what we're going to do is launch straight into Matt Toombs giving us his trend for that particular handicap, and then we'll go into the previews. So the Ultima handicap chase, first of all, the first of the handicaps that takes place at the Cheltenham Festival. We're going to go in chronological order. Matt Toombs, take it away. What is your key trend to find the underbet horses for the Ultima handicap chase?
So the key trend is about horses that are £7 or more below their hurdles mark. And they're 5 from 14 the last 13 renewal, big profits on that. And this principle applies generally to handicap chases, but it's particularly suited to this race. In 2-mile chases, shallow division, fitness is less of an issue, they don't finish tired, so it's harder to plot up, usually a novice chaser. Over 3 miles, it's easier, and with the Muir having a 145 ceiling, the Ultima is the race where you'd imagine this is most likely to happen in the future as well. So you'd never interpret these trends literally by only including horses that are £7 or more below the hurdles mark. It's the general principle.
Untitled Chapter would be a classic one of those, right?
Absolutely, and they're Holywell and Wichita Lineman as well. That when they're really high class hurdles, those were all rated about 160. It's quite hard for the handicapper to get a grip of them when they're running around in ordinary novice chases.
And what we'll also do is, not necessarily for this race, but I'll want to contextualise the relative chances of the UK and Irish horses, and if we can expect any particular race for the UK to have the upper hand, shock horror, or the Irish perhaps to have the upper hand. Rixie, I'm going to come to you first of all. For most of these races, you've got a short list. Obviously, you know, you're not going to go necessarily with just one selection, but you've got a good old short list actually for this race. This is the handicap you're sort of most opinionated on, is that right?
Yeah, it probably is. I suppose that with handicaps in a lot of races, especially at Cheltenham, you know, you need things to go right. And for things to go right, we need to know the pace and the ground. And obviously we won't know that. We don't know that now. So what I've tried to do is just pick out a couple of horses in each race that I think are overpriced now, kind of have an anti-post approach. And yeah, like the main two I would have in this race are Cheltenham Briggs and T Clipper. I suppose I'll start with T Clipper because I actually think he's the best handicapped horse in the race. The key to him is going to be good ground. I think if Cheltenham get lots and lots of rain, it's really going to play against his strengths. He was third in the Coral Cup last year behind Heaven Help Us, and he's had 3 starts over fences this season. And he started the season very well at Chepstow. Clocked he was the time and closing sections he clocked at Chepstow were very good. He then went to Newbury and flopped in a Grade 2. But I don't think that's a surprise because he's best fresh. And I think that run just came too soon from even after a couple of furlongs, he looked beaten. Then he was considered good enough to run in the Cato Star, Grade 1 behind Braveman's Game and a Hoist and Muir at Kempton. But soft ground is no good for him either. But I thought he shaped a hell of a lot better than the distance beaten. And it was good to see his jumping improve from his first start at Chepstow. The Tom Lacey team are in good order. As long as the sun keeps shining, I think he can go close. I think he's brutally overpriced, to be honest. And then the other horse I think is overpriced as well is Cheltenham Briggs, trained by Jamie Snowden. Jamie, the last couple of weeks, he's gone a little bit more quiet. But I like this horse. He just seems to be in a good place this season. He's probably got more experience than ideal over fences for a race of this nature. But he's been in good form. He just looks in a good place. He jumped well. I actually thought he might have held back the form in the Cato Star at Christmas because he finished a bit too close for comfort, given he went into the race rated 137. But then he backed that up next time out by beating Pay the Piper at Musselburgh, who's rated 143, and there was no fluke there. I don't think he's as ground dependent as T Clipper, so he'd probably be my main selection just because I think he's not as ground dependent basically. The two of those, especially Cheltenham Briggs, I think the less pace in the race the better. If the likes of Frodon on that run, it wouldn't really put me off because Frodon's not the type of horse to go in and gallop. But yeah, those are the main two that I like at the prices. If the better the ground, the better the chance, and that's definitely the case with T Clipper.
You talk about experience there, and perhaps a horse, with too much chase experience. Vintage Clouds won this race on his 28th chase start last year. So, this isn't necessarily one where I worry about horses having shown their hand too much. I'm going to follow you in definitely on T Clipper for all the reasons you said. I thought he was overpriced at around about 26.0. I'll chuck in just a couple of the others at this point. I want to back 2 Dan Skelton horses. I imagine only one will show up, but I do think Spirit of the Games, in fact, wherever he runs at Cheltenham, as long as it's over the fences, because he has got potential hurdle engagements. But I know he doesn't win very often. I think he's really well treated, and I like Skelton horses in handicaps. He pots them up nicely. This horse is just he is weighted to win for all he doesn't win very often. But I still think on the day he always goes off a fair price. So I think on the day he'd be a win and place bet. Almadam would be my main selection for this race. Who disappointed at the festival last year. I thought he shaped okay with his last start here in January, and I think this sort of race will be ideal for him. He's fairly treated. The other horse I like is Matt's selection. So those have been my sort of 4 for the race. Spirit of the Games, Almadam, T Clipper, and Matt. Oscar Elite, take it away.
Yeah, he's £5 below his hurdles mark. He was a good staying novice hurdler last season, albeit probably in a substandard division. And that was when the Tizard Yard wasn't firing. Secondly, Albert Bartlett's Vanillier, third in the Sefton behind a Hoist and Muir and Braveman's Game. On the face of it, he's been a bit disappointing in his 4 runs over fences. He did look to be running well on his chasing debut when tipping up 3 out over course and distance in November in a race won by 300-3-5. Then finished very tired at Huntingdon next time and the yard was a bit quiet. Colin Tizard said it took him a while to get over that. And his 2 runs since have been over inadequate intermediate trips. You have to think he could improve a lot for a stiffer test of stamina. They tend to go quickly in this. For many jockeys, it's the first ride of the meeting. Stamina's at a premium. and he looked a thorough stayer over hurdles. With the stable in better form, wouldn't be surprised if he bounced back here. He's well handicapped off 134. Now, Colin Tizard was saying you just don't get into an Ultima off 134. So you might have to look at the Muir. But only once this century has 134 not got a run. There are only 43 confirmed today. I think it's 50-50. They won't get a full field of 24 declared. So he's number 38. He'll hopefully get in. It would obviously help if Frodon doesn't run, as Oscar Elite would be £4 out of the handicap if he does. I can't imagine Fury Road would run off top weight. That might be a welfare issue. So the weight would go up £9 if Frodon defects due to the ground. So for me, it's a race to wait and bet in, particularly this one, because we need to know whether Frodon runs. It's a very different shape of the handicap, depending on whether he does or not. But Oscar Elite is top of my shortlist at the moment.
I'm just going to bring in Helen's comment because I know she's right on this. Headgear is supposed to be a decent stat in the Ultima Tombs. It is, isn't it? The horses running in headgear. I remember I used that angle for the horse that was second a few years ago, Kildasar. I think he had cheek pieces on for the first time. But
yeah, that's right. I think 9 of the last 10 have been in headgear. And it's not just this race, it's also the Muir and to a lesser extent the Pertemps. It's these, particularly the staying chases. They're grizzled old horses and often they need the headgear. And sometimes it's headgear going back on or going on for the first time.
While we're here...
Vintage Clouds, I think he won it last year in first time cheek pieces, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And so did Alfie Sherrin.
And that's another thing that's against us as well. We only get that information at Dex time. And obviously the jockeys, a lot of these races as well, those good claimers, taking off £3 or £5. That's kind of info we're not kind of privy to it at the moment as well. So that makes things a little bit trickier.
While we're here, we've only parked UK horses. Madness, you must say. But are we... I know, Dees, you've got an Irish horse in there, that's why I'm leaving you out for now. But this is a race for the Team UK, isn't it? Traditionally. Yeah,
the last Irish winner was in 2006. I mean, generally the Irish horses tend to go in the Muir because they get the crack qualified riders on.
So there you go. So you're going to have the opening race of the Festival of Supreme, the favourite is British. The Arkle, the favourite is British. We're going to be 3-0 up. And then
all right, Nigel Farage, calm down, for fuck's sake.
I think it's more like it's 3-0 to Ireland after 3 races, I tell you.
You're probably right. Dees, go on. Who do you like?
Like you said, it's hard to pick ones in this, so I've kind of been conservative enough with my ones. So the first one is last year's winner, Vintage Clouds. So I know he's 12 years old, but he won by 5.5 lengths last year. He won very well. He had 3 bad runs at the start of the season, but they gave him a bit of wind surgery, and he ran very well last time at Doncaster. It'll be a nice little pipe opener. If Frodon stays in the race, he's going to be running off 10.6, which I think it gives him a chance, and he's going to be a chunky double-figure price, so I could see him hitting the frame. The other one then is the Irish horse, is Discordantly, who finished 6th last year. No, he was 12 lengths down. He's been Jessica Harrington's only winner for the last 2 weeks. He won very well there. Not very well, but he won kind of stylish enough at Leopardstown there recently, a few days ago. Hoping he'll run. There's been a bit of money for him as well now. He's been backed in. I think he's come from about 21.0 to 15.0. So that's a good sign. And of course he's £5 well in with because the weights are out. So he's an interesting one. I think that I like looking like. Obviously, horses that ran in this race before have a good record of turning up in it again. So he would be a win place, but the Irish horses generally, handicap chases don't have much in hand, especially not in this race. I wouldn't generally look at them, but he kind of stood out to me. And the main one, I think, again, like Matt, now with Oscar Elite, this fella is going to need a bit of luck to get into it, but I think Our Power is off 136 has a cracking chance. He has had a very good season. He's after winning twice. He fell at Doncaster in January, where I think he was going well in the race, and he was last seen finishing 3rd to Captain Ard at Kempton in the 2 weeks ago. Now he was only staying on at the end. He like Captain Ard and Kitty's Light were gone, but he came from a good bit back. I think that the step up and trip could be in his favour. Sam Thomas is having a brilliant season. Just hoping that he gets in. And again, he's a nice kind of double figure price. I think he's about 16.0. So he would be my main play if he gets into it. I think that he's a nice profile for this.
our power main play for Deasy in the Ultima. That's our short list of selections anyway for the Ultima. That's a race where we've got most horses, to be honest. And obviously we've got the 5 days for that. Just to remind you, as with our Cheltenham preview, we have a £25 free bet to give away. It's all you need to do is to comment, and every 20 comments we'll pick someone. Comment on YouTube, or you can do so below on Twitter when we put the video out with your handicap nap post recording. Handicap nap post recording. Just comment your handicap nap, and you could well get a £25 free bet and kick out one in every 20 comments to do so. Bosh, simple as that. On we go to the Boodles, and your stat for this, Matt. I like this one. Take it away.
7 of the last 10 winners have gone off between 26.0 and 81.0. All were 15th or lower choice of the punters in what's now a maximum field of 22. So only 3 winners in the last decade have gone off shorter than 26.0. Yeah, it's a 22-runner juvenile handicap. Horses who've often run minimally, some of them like Gaelic Warrior or Mildam solely in France. So if you want to have a bet, I'd be splitting stakes and backing a couple of long shots that you can make a case for, only in the win market. But it is a lottery, and it's a race I'm happy to sit out.
Fair enough, but the point being that you tend to want to look way down the betting, as Peter's punts did last year with Jeff Kidder. Go on the punts. You can let us know your selection as well if you've got one, Peter, on the comments, and I'll bring it in. Dees, over to you, sir.
Yeah, this is a fairly tentative selection as well. I've gone for Champion Green, Joseph O'Brien's horse. He seems to have improved with his racing this year. He won last time out. He is by the Gorka out of a Lope de Vega mare. So I think it's going to be fairly soft on the first day, and I think that these horses are going to take the handle. I think there's plenty in his pedigree that says he'll handle that. Again, he's not a huge price. He's going to be near enough to the top of the market, but like this is an absolute lottery. I'll probably hold off close to the day to see what actually turns up. But if Gaelic Warrior is going off close to even money, I'll be laying him as well, just on the hope that there'll be 2 or 3 horses in this who are better handicapped than him and can get past him, and maybe the hurly burly of a 22-runner field around Cheltenham might get to him.
I think he is an absolute take-on job. I mean, what is he currently? He's around about 3.25. I mean, my God, that's just madness. I did place lay Band of Outlaws a few years ago, so that wasn't great. But otherwise, it's a take on the top of the market job, or whoever goes on favourite for me. Rixie, do you want to expand a bit on the favourite, and then anything else you like in the race?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know the French form book in and out, but I've had a look at his runs. His 3 runs can actually be seen on attheraces.com. We've got all the French replays on the site there, which is very handy for a horse like this. I would just say, like, he's had 3 runs at Ultima. I've never been there, but it looks a massive, big galloping left-handed track. You know, that the old course at Cheltenham, I think, is going to be a totally different ball game to this. The official French going, I think, was very soft, heavy. So, you know, spring ground as well. That's going to put another emphasis on speed. And the last day when he ran at Ultima, James Reevely's actually rode him his 3 times. He wanted to jump off very, very prominent, but there was pace in the race, and he lost his place very, very quickly. I just wonder. Look, there's no doubt this horse. It sounds like he's well handicapped. But I just wonder, is this test going to play against him? I think if he wins, he's going to win ugly, and he could win, you know, trading maybe double or 3 times the price that he is now. I think you've got to take him on. I think the better the ground, I think the more you kind of have on other horses. And look, he's making the market for a lot of these horses. If you took him out, you know, everything obviously would be a hell of a lot shorter. So we'll see what way it goes, but I'm just not convinced on what I've seen there that the test will suit him. So we'll see as he bolts up there on the snap with Town and waving to the crowd. That will be enjoyable to watch. Look, again, I mentioned T Clipper in the last race as a horse who I'd like if the rain stayed away. The one I'd mention in the same kind of bracket here is Lunar Power of Noel Meads. Mead obviously won the race last year. I just really like this horse. I think in terms of handicapping, he's been fairly treated, to be honest, but he's just so rock solid. He jumps well, he travels well, he's really professional. And, I think that's a big advantage in a race like this with loads of inexperienced young horses. I think the better the ground, obviously, the better his chance. He'll go well. I could see him running a big race at a big price. The main play, and in terms of my own ratings, he is a horse I'd like to see a little bit of money for, a little bit of confidence, because his last 2 runs have been disappointing. But I think Ebisari is the best handicapped horse in this race, based on his debut run at Cork, where he beat Willie Mullins's Adamantly Chosen. He's gone on to bolt up since. So I think a mark of, I think it's 131 did he get? I think that's pretty fair. And the day that he beat Adamantly Chosen, he didn't have a run either. He conceded first run as well to the Mullins horse, and he picked him up pretty snug at the line. Now, his next 2 runs, you need plenty of forgiving, but the market suggested he wasn't fancied on either of those runs. And the last time, Davy Russell was the most un-Davy Russell ride I've ever seen. Like 48 wide, no cover, just that's not Davy. If Davy's winning a handicap, he doesn't do that. He's brave. He puts him down the inner, and because he knows in these handicaps you need everything to go right. If there's a bit of confidence around him, I could see him running a huge race. And if there's confidence around, the bigger my bet would be. I don't think the ground's going to be any issue to him. The day he won at Cork, it was heavy ground, but he's a nice moving horse, and he's a big horse as well. So if Phil Dore does come out of this race and the weight's rise significantly, he is a horse who would carry that weight no problem. So, but look, this is a mental race, honestly. And I don't think I've ever backed the winner of the Fred Winter. So that will probably continue this year.
And Peter's shout is San Riccio for Ian Williams, just in case anyone was wondering. San Riccio for Ian Williams. You did find it last year, 81.0 last year. This horse is about 51.0, Peter. It's pathetic. You've changed. And Trevor says, same again, Gaelic Warrior will win. Judge. We'll see. Unearth the value, Trev. I wanted to mention Swinging London. He's definitely going to run here, and he was one of a couple of horses that Ollie Murphy picked up from some very good operators in the form of Elmarie Holden and the team there, and they both won actually on their first starts, 2 4-year-olds. But I was pretty impressed with Swinging London, who was hammered in the betting last time. He's a big price, and he's definitely going to line up. So I'd be inclined to have a bit now at 41.0 because he's definitely going to go. So there you go. That's it. I've got another couple of possibilities, but I'll probably just end up backing the Gordon Elliott Outsider because there you go. They'll be a big price, and they're probably quite good. Let's move on to the Coral Cup, a race which I'm sitting out because I haven't got a Scooby-Doo. Matt, your trend first of all.
So no first season novice has ever won this, but 14 of the 21 renewals this century have been won by second season hurdlers. And given that there's no open grade 1 at this sort of trip, it tends to attract some open graded conditions race horses further up the weight. It's a really classy race for a handicap. 3 of the last 8 winners won an open graded conditions race soon after this. Whisper and Super Sunday were multiple grade 1 winners in open company. Yeah, the concentration of the best horses in so few hands means that the top novices are more likely to run in handicaps now, to be split up from their stablemates in the Supreme or Ballymore. But I think it's usually a fair bit harder in the Coral Cup when they're taking on horses like Super Sunday and Whisper, often in not in much receipt of weight, than it is in, say, the County or the Pertemps. So I'd be against a lot of those first season horses.
And the point in that being that a lot of the first season horses, they can be high up the betting. It's perceived that they haven't shown their hand yet. They're ahead of their marks, but it might just be worth looking a bit further down the betting. And Matt, who are you with?
Well, Gordon was asked at the unveiling of the weights what his best handicapped horse was. Diplomatically said Death Duty was the only Irish horse who was below their domestic mark. I think his best handicapped horse may well prove to be Saint Felicien. He's inexperienced for this after just 3 runs, but he was talked about as a champion hurdle horse early in the season. He's got in off 149 here, just £2 higher than his Irish mark. Now, to put that in context, 83% of the Irish hurdlers were raised more than he was, 58% were raised £5 or more. And normally it's the older exposed horses that don't get bumped up as much. Not a 5-year-old just had 3 starts. But what really attracted me, I was watching his latest run in the Limestone Lad that screamed handicap plot. It was an ideal race with a thoroughly exposed and very consistent 150 horse in Durasso in it. Don't think Robbie Power used his whip at all on Saint Felicien. And it was eerily reminiscent of Gordon's other 2 Coral Cup winners, Carlito Briganti and Diamond King, who both prepped by finishing second in minor conditions races. It wouldn't surprise me if he was winning open grade conditions races later in the spring. He could well be lobbed in here. The fact that Gordon didn't even enter him in the county suggests he thinks step up in trip's really going to suit him. I think he could go off a short price favourite on the day. So he's one I'd be backing now.
Saint Felicien for you, for Gordon Elliott. Rixie.
Yeah, just one for me in this race. And I think horses towards the top of the handicap, if I'm right, Matt, horses near the top kind of do well in this race historically, don't they, I think? So
yeah, absolutely. And it's such a class handicap that they're going against graded conditions horses. It's sometimes harder for those plot jobs down the bottom in a better quality race.
Yeah, exactly. So I've kind of gone that route. I'm pretty keen on McFabulous here, actually, especially now that the Nichols team are in good order. He's been rated as high as 158 by the official handicapper in the past. He's down to 150 now, and I think he started his season unbelievably well. I loved his run behind Stormy Ireland in the Rail Keel. Paul Nichols pre-race said that he'd need the race quite considerably because I think he had an accident in the yard earlier in the season, so they had to kind of back off him and get him right. But he just looked like he looked like he loved being back in the game. He was just so bright. He travelled really nicely. He jumped well. And then he was kind of either outpaced on the run to the last or he took a bit of a blow. I think he probably took a bit of a blow. And that coincides with what Paul said, kind of pre and post race. So he needed it. He then went to Cheltenham on his next run, but he ran behind Paisley Park. But at the time, Nichols's horses were running absolutely terrible. Harry Derham would have been tailed off in the local Egg and Spoon Sports Day, even if he ran around the same time, to be honest. So, he's a horse who travels well early. He looked beaten after a couple of furlongs. And then, strangely enough, he kind of travelled a bit better as he got into the race. As I said, that's when the Nichols team gave all their horses the flu jabs. They were running absolutely stink. I've been given a chance by the handicapper. This is his trip. So, McFabulous for me. I think the better the ground, the better his chance, because I just think he's got that little bit of class, that little bit of pace. But if it was kind of like genuine soft ground, I think he should be okay. But I like him. I think he's rock solid in this kind of race. So, just one for me in this, and that's McFabulous.
He was the closest I got to committing to. I think he's hugely interesting. Trevor Meeks says, drop the anchor for me. And that's what Deasy thinks.
Yeah, I put him up there last week in our first preview, and the juice has been completely squeezed out of his price now. He's been tipped by a good few people, but I think he's quite an obvious one for it. I mean, he finished 7th in the county hurdle last year, staying on. I mean, if another few furlongs, I think would have been very much in his favour. He opened up. He started the season running behind Jesse Evans in a flat race at Navan. He went over to Ascot then in December. I thought it was just one of those things where they entered the horse over just to check the UK mark, but he ran in the race and he didn't try a yard. He was out the back for the whole thing. Finished 9th. Had a little pipe opener there at the Dublin Racing Festival. Finished 5th. It was a good run, but this is his only entry. He operates well in big field handicaps. I think he's in here only a pound higher. But again, he's a very sharp price in a competitive handicap. So there's no value in his price now. But I think he's definitely going to run a very big race.
Good stuff. That's the Coral Cup done and dusted. Thanks for your selections coming in. Gaz not sure McFabulous will stay up the hill. You like Grant Thomas likes Campron. Just a reminder that there's a £25 free bet for you if you comment with your handicap nap. Not for everyone, but for every 20 we find, every 20 comments there, I will pick up one of you for a £25 free bet on the Matchbook exchange. Let's move on to the Grand Annual on a Wednesday. of all places. I'm not sure my selection fits in with this stat. He won it last year, but he didn't go off in the first few in the betting. I don't think. Toomsy, what's the trend?
Yeah, it's on a Wednesday now, as you say. Got moved last year from the stiffer new course to the sharper old course, 83 yards less. So it's even more of an emphasis on speed, specialist 2-milers. And in that sense, it's not a surprise that, unlike the other handicap chases, form from the previous Grand Annuals has been an excellent guide. 8 of the last 16 winners had run in the Grand Annual before. But even more than just having run in the race, it's horses that were well fancied in the previous renewal that have done so well. 2-mile chasing's so specialist. Whilst the winning SPs are telling you otherwise, there are plenty of runners in this that just aren't quick enough to win. And the unpredictability comes from the fact that it's also the division with the least margin for error jumping. There's a lot about uncertainty about which horses will get into a rhythm, have luck in running. And I think when well-fancied horses, it doesn't go their way, they're loaded back into the horse box and a plot's made to come back the next year. And so the trend is that horses that went off in the front 3 in the market the last time they ran in the Grand Annual are 6 from 26 in the last 16 renewals. Big profits following that.
I love that. And that's why you're selecting the horse you are. And I just come on to the next thing you put. Grand Annual winners this century and 0 from 56 in handicap chases the following season. Is that for my set? Because I like.
I saw your selection go up earlier on our board, and I thought I'd just prompt you with that.
Yeah, thanks. You shit. That was proper partridge of me. So go on. So Sky, because he fits the plot. He fits the plot billing, right? Sky Power. I just feel like he's been. This season has been all about this. They didn't even bother with entries and anything else. It was just bang, off we go, straight back to defend his crown. £5 how I can see him doing well, but. What do Grand Annual winners they don't win again? Is that the issue?
No, there does tend to be a day in the sun race. I think if one of them is going to do it, it might well be him. And having deliberately put that stat up, I'll get my comeuppance and it'll bolt up and you'll be able to lord it over me.
That would be tremendous. I still owe you for Rock on Ruby in the Arkle. I won't forget that. You told me he had absolutely no chance and you were right. Okay, well, I'll come back to you for your selection. DC, who do you like?
So the first one, this is one of my strongest tips of the week, is Before Midnight, Sam Thomas's horse. Now he began his season at the October meeting in Cheltenham where he beat Sky Pirate by 6 lengths. So he was getting loads of weight, but it was just the style of his. He made all, he jumped absolutely brilliantly. He was miles ahead of his mark. He was only carrying 10-3 that day, but he followed that up then. A month later, Ascot, he beat him a Moola Gold again. Very good run. He had a go Shishkin at Christmas, which was way into deep from, and he's finished second then by a length to Fernando Savola at Doncaster in January. Now, I mean, he's had 3 absolutely brilliant runs this year. This has been his target since then. He's running off 148. I've been backing him all year. I think he's got a brilliant chance of definitely hitting the frame. The other one then, good time for Sky Pirate as well. It's just the weight. I know he'd probably have a 7-pound claim or something on him, but I mean, he hasn't tried once since the race last year. They've done good with his mark, and he has a great win place chance. But I'll definitely back him to hit the top 4 or 5 on the day. And the final one then is Embittered, last year's not favourite last year. I'll let Matt make the case for that because that's his only selection in the race.
Yeah, take it away, Matt. And Gaz Singh agrees with you.
That's good. Yeah, he looked to be going nicely when he fell 5 out last year. He was a novice just having his 5th run then. Kept busy as a second season novice over the summer, winning a couple of times, including the Grade 3. Following which, he's been well beaten in the best 2-mile novice chases in Ireland over the winter. And in consequence, he's £1 lower than he was last year on 145. Hasn't run in a handicap chase all season. I very much doubt Joseph thought he was going to win a Grade 1 novice chase this winter. So it all looks a bit like he's been primed for a handicap in the spring. He's exactly the type that comes back to win a Grand Annual. And
yeah, he's a fair price as well, based upon what he did last year, or the price he went off last year at least. And Grant Thomas says, Editor de Geek looks an out-and-out 2-miler that loves Cheltenham. Rixie, that's where you're looking, one of the horses you like.
Yeah, he's one of the horses, but obviously Matchbook is an exchange, and if you back him, you don't get your money back. There is chat that he will maybe run in the Queen Mother, which is just ludicrous. He's going to be lapped in that Queen Mother. He's not good enough. He's still in the race. I suppose we'll find out tomorrow. I think there's another entry stage for the 2 races, isn't there? He's not good enough for that. He's like £20 short of the Champion Chase Big Guns. If he runs here, he's got a chance, because he's a horse that when he gets to the front, he can idle quite badly. So the handicappers probably struggles to get a proper handle on him. Josh Moore's back from injury. Sean Houlihan has been riding him earlier in the season. I suppose Josh will keep the ride if he does run here, but I'd love Houlihan to ride him just because he's got a good relationship with him. And obviously, I think, does he still claim? I think he does. So, that will obviously help. But the main horse in here for me is Gumball. And I don't know if this has been the plan, and this is why he's been off the track with the Fergal O'Brien team now in good order. He is a ridiculous price at like 33s pluses. I have no idea why he's so big. It wasn't that long ago he had Eldorado Allen, who's now rated in the 160s, off the bridle, going to the second last over this course and distance, but he fell. He's now. I had him running to 150 that day before he came down. He's now down to a mark of 140. So, if he comes back to his best year, he could have maybe £10 in hand. And that was as a novice last year when Philip Hobbs's horses weren't exactly firing the whole season. So it could even be more well in. He ran very well his first start of the season at York on the flat with Holly Doyle on, and then he ran well behind Warlord at Carlisle, shape better than the distance beaten, probably just got put in the race too early. But his next 2 starts at Newbury and Ludlow, he's had an absolute nightmare at the start. I don't know if he's getting a bit cute and getting a bit kind of recalcitrant or what, but he's maybe spooked at the tape twice. But he basically, for a horse who likes to front run and be prominent, he had no chance at Newbury, and then he did ever so well to only be beaten half a length to Not Available, who's been in good form this year. If the O'Brien team can get him to jump off on terms, and the vibes about him are good and whatever, he 33-1 is just an insanely good bet at that price. If he comes back to his best, he'll lead these all in merry dance for a long, long way.
Well, that's your main selection, is Gumball, round about 34.0 for him. We move on to the Pertemps. The obvious, I think a few of us have selected Elliott horses. So, Matt, the trend on here is what?
It is about Gordon Elliott. Yeah, this is a race that's changed hugely. It used to often be won by ex-chasers at big prices, but the last 6 winners have all been Irish trained, 3 were novices. It's still a plot race. The qualifying system always demands that, but it's unexposed types that are generally being plotted up successfully now, just the sort punters like to latch onto, hence the shorter prices that they're going in at. And unsurprisingly, the master handicap planner, Gordon Elliott, has been at the forefront of this. His record is incredible in such a competitive 24-runner handicap. And the stat is that of the 10 runners from Culuntra House stables in the last 6 renewals, 3 have won, 5 have been placed, and the worst any of them have finished is 5th.
That's frightening. I like Gazzi's comment.
Some operator, isn't he? Elliott is just like, we all know what happened last year, whatever, move on. But this guy is some trainer. He's just, how he does it. I swear to God, if Ebisari wins the Fred Winter after his last 2 starts, the man's a genius. But anyway, sorry.
No, it's fair enough. I like that Gazzi just says Sire de Burle is the trend with a little one of those. So I've gone with Tully Begg. He's a Gordon Elliott horse. He's been my sort of one anti-post play this year. DC and I have been in agreement ever since, well, before he ran at Cheltenham to qualify for this. Elliott put his cards on the table and said this will get him qualified. And then he wants a sound surface, so we'll put him away until the spring. He might not get a sound surface, but I think he's 4th in of the Elliott horses in the betting at about 15.0. And I just think that's recency bias with the other horses, just because we haven't seen the horse for some time. I mean, if that Cheltenham race was, on trials there, or whatever, or more recently, he'd be a lot shorter, I think, because he'd be an obvious one. Perfect, get him qualified, and he lines up here. So Tully Begg for me. Dees, you can pick up off that if you want with yours.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching his race again today, and like I watched all the God daily horses, their qualifiers today, and like just Tully Beg, like they didn't see the whip at all, just got him into fifths and lovely stuff. The other out of them all, I thought Dunboyne. No, he's a bit close to the top of the market, but he ran in the same race as Winter Fog, and if you watch him in the back straight, there Winter Fog and Dunboyne are basically running side by side. Winter Fog goes around the outside and gets to the front and very unlucky to be beaten. But Dunboyne had absolutely no luck in running. He kind of came through the inside, got bumped, didn't get gaps. But again, they got him into fifth and got him qualified. Ran a stinker the last time, but if anyone can get him back for this, it is Mr. Gordon at it, who will, I suppose, buck that trend this year now, because at least one of them is going to have to finish seventh. But it could be he could have the top seven home in this easily.
Wouldn't that be a great result for racing? That would be ridiculous.
I know. And the other one then is just Born Patriot. Again, he is a bit of form tied in with Tully Beg. He came second in that qualifier that Tully Beg ran in October. Ran a cracker. He was beaten the 3 lengths by Kansas City Chief. I didn't think he had much of a hope going into it. He's only had one run since. He ran behind Green Book at Sandown. So he's been overtaken a few times now. He can handle the travelling. Peter Fahey brought one over last year to win the county hurdle. Born Patriot is a big enough price as well. He's going to be about 20.0, so I'll have a little win place bet in him as well.
Toomsy, you're with a Gordon Elliott horse, no doubt.
Yeah, different one. Just confused the issue. It's Volcano, who was a 6th at Punchestown in the qualifier that's now run in the autumn. He went off only 8.5 for the Martin Pipe last year, got hampered and got taken out at the first. Had 2 runs since qualifying in different headgear. He didn't run that well at Navan the next time in first-time cheek pieces. Were upgraded to blinkers for his final run in a Grade B at the same track over 2.5 just before Christmas. He looked to be coming with a winning run there off an Irish mark of 126, then looked to stop once he got to the front. Shane Fitzgerald looked a really good value for his £5 claim, but perhaps this is a horse that would benefit from very experienced handling. And generally, the vibes are going to be crucial in the next few days in terms of establishing which of Gordon's are the better fancy ones. Jockey bookings will be part of that. And I think they'll be especially important with Volcano. If Jack or Davey was to be on him, I'd take it as a particularly positive sign. Not only are they Gordon's 2 main riders, but Volcano looks the type who might improve a lot for strong handling. So for me, it's more a race to wait and look to play in over the next few days. We learn more about Gordon's team. Off a mark of 136, Volcano's the one I've got my eye on the moment, and he might be a back to lay play given how strongly he tends to travel.
Which, of course, you can do on the Matchbook Exchange. Grant Thomas says Side of Burley must have a huge chance with £7 being claimed off his back. I've liked Sassy Yet Classy for some time now. Thoughts on her? Does any have any thoughts on Sassy Yet Classy? Feel free to. No, fine. Well, do you think Gordon will run pretty much all of them? Do you think anything will go elsewhere?
He said he's going to run all 7.
Right. Amazing. Trevor says, where is the shunter going this year? We believe Coral Cup, right? That seems to be the announcement, doesn't it?
Yeah, Nick Luck said that today, or he told Nick Luck today that he was going to go on the Coral Cup. They said they think he's a better herder than a chaser. Okay.
So it won't be the shunter in the plate. It'll be
the shunter in
the Coral Cup. Yeah. It doesn't work so well, does it? Rixie, my man, where are you looking?
Yes, I'm looking at Remastered here, and by the sounds of it, he kind of fitted the old trends in terms of being a chaser coming back hurdling that Matt was talking about at the start there. I think he's been given a real chance by the handicapper, to be honest. I had him running to 143 in the Reynoldstown last year when he beat the machine, and then he ran behind Galvin in the National Hunt Chase. But he shaped way better than the distance beaten that day. He just didn't get home. And to be honest, I think 3 miles is the absolute limit of this horse's stamina. I think he's been running this season over fences where you jump more obstacles. At Haydock on soft ground, you pass 3 miles. I just think his stamina has been running out. He was shaping very well in the Ladbrokes Trophy when he fell 4 out again. And he qualified for this race on his first run of the season at Aintree, but behind Kashari. I had him running to 135 there. He runs off 133. That form has actually worked out as well. Daisha, Abba, Pilion, So, he could have actually been raised further for that race. I just think with him, the key to him over this race is we need to see the decks, or I need to see the decks, just to see how much pace is on, because I think the less pace on in this race, the better. And the more tactical a race Tom Scudamore turns this into, the better his chance, because I think an end-to-end 3 miles on the new course could maybe stretch him a little bit. But David Pipe used to win this with a front runner every couple of times. Can't remember the name of the horse now. He was by In the Wings. He used to be trained at Aidan O'Brien's. I can't remember his name. But, go on.
Buena Vista, I think.
Buena Vista, that was it, yeah. So he does have previous with kind of front runners in this race. I just like him. He's a really likable horse. As a 9-year-old, he's probably as a famous man on a fighting video said, he's in the prime of his life. So, I'm enjoying him now. He's going well. The better the ground, I think, more speed plays to his strengths. Down at the bottom of the handicap as well, he's going to carry 10 stone 3 if they all stay in. He's going to run around loose. So as long as Tom Scoo doesn't turn this into like an end-to-end gallop, because I think he could have been a little bit calmer on him in places this season, and because I think that they think this horse is a proper stayer, but I don't think he is. I think 3 miles is the limit of his stamina. So I like him for this race, but my confidence levels will either increase or decrease when we get the pace map at Dex.
Okay, good stuff. Does anyone have any thoughts on Alaphilippe? If not, we'll move on. But only Tim has asked the question. Anybody?
Well, yeah, he's clear. Well, we say this about a lot of horses, but he's clearly been laid out, hasn't he? I think he's only had one run coming from, and they thought good enough of him to run in a Grade 1 at the festival last year. So, but I think he's been fairly well found in the market, and on the Cheltenham preview kind of trail, he's been given plenty of positive mentions as well. So
he is highest of the British in the betting, definitely second in at the moment. Right, let's move on to the plate. Alex says, looking at the plate, hard luck not to like the chances of Vienna Court wherever she runs this year. Agreed, she was really good when winning earlier on this season. I think that was on New Year's Day, and Nigel Twiston-Davies has got a really good record in the Cheltenham Handicaps this year. There you go. Matt, what's the trend?
16 of the first 17 winners this century went off 13.0 or bigger. Used to be the most unpredictable race of the week. The last 4 have gone off 6.0 or shorter. And if you're using trends, then you've got to try and work out whether the inherent nature of a race is changing, so you need to ditch those old trends, or is it just statistical noise? 4 renewals is a small sample. I'm open-minded whether it really has changed, and that with the demise of the novice handicap chase, whether we're going to get a lot of unexposed, obvious horses winning. So I've got to foot in each camp and have a couple with very different profiles.
Go on, take it away. And I think that's an interesting point you pick up there with the demise of the novice handicap chase, just how we're going to see that change the likes of the Turners and the likes of this race as well. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, and I remember I used to do a preview with the old handicapper Phil Smith, who always used to say, if you had a 140 rated novice over intermediate trips, why would you run them in the novice handicap chase and potentially run into an Aplutar when you can run them against a load of old, experienced, exposed handicappers in this? And so I think we will get more novices running. And the modern type of winner like that, if you will, is Imperial Alcazar, who I like. Really well fancied for the Pertemps final last year off 147, but bombed out. Beaten in a match by the talented but fragile mare Silver Forever on his chasing debut at Newbury. Then jumped poorly behind Pat's Fancy at Chepstow, but he was a totally different proposition over course and distance here on trials day. Bolted up by 10 lengths off 144. Third's gone in again since. Form looks pretty good. He's up to 152. And a few years ago, I'd been saying, well, he's handicapped himself out of this. If he's a novice that can win off that mark, he ought to be in a Grade 1. But Simply the Bets won the same race on trial day and then followed up off 149. And novices that aren't Grade 1 horses are winning off those sort of marks now. So see him going well. And the old-fashioned type of winner is Spirit of the Games. He's a 10-year-old who's had 17 chase starts, only won one of them. But he's been second 3 times and third once in similar events at Cheltenham. And he's been dropped a lot in the weights, as you were saying earlier, Tom. Whether he gets in here, I think Dan Skelton said that's his preference. or whether he ends up in the Ultima, not certain yet. But he was a good staying on 7th, 9th in the Paddy Power 144, now down to 136. And in the interim, they've been experimenting with more positive tactics over 3 miles, a trip he doesn't really get. And that all smacks of a plan to be up closer to the pace in this. Everyone knows by now how much of an advantage prominent runners have. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the cheap pieces upgraded to blinkers to light him up early in the race, get a prominent position. And he's a big price, and he might be an even bigger price on the Matchbook exchange on the day. So he looks a play, and probably even more so in the place market when that's available nearer the time.
Yeah, because he doesn't win for fun. I've already made the case for him for the. I will back him whichever race he runs in, but yes, I prefer it to be this race. I think that distance-wise, that's the Ultima is probably the limit of his stamina. So I'll be backing him if he lines up. Another old-fashioned one for me is Pink Legend, the mare for Venetia Williams, who does have a really good record in this, just not recently. I thought that she is in the mare's chase, but she's a bigger price for that, and I hope they come here. She was a winner at Huntingdon before. It didn't work out at Uttoxeter last time, but I think she's still feasibly treated. This is her distance, course and distance winner. Hopefully the ground doesn't get too soft, but a big price, 41.0, Pink Legend. I sort of half wanted a Venetia horse on side. We know she can do it here, and she was much bigger than I thought she'd be anyway. So she also likes to race handy, so that's a plus. We have had one shout for Imperial Alcazar. I know DC, you agree, and Helen also says, Bustleton, you agree there too?
Thanks for muting me there, Dan. Yes, Bustleton. So this is his nominated target. It was in a stable tour yesterday. He said he's going for this. I had my eye on him for whatever he was going at Cheltenham. He was Sam Turner gave us Bustleton as his horse to follow. I think it was last year from the yard, and he had a good 4-year-old campaign. He didn't quite live up to that at Cheltenham, but he's been consistent all year, and he's been like Embittered. He's been kept very busy all season. He's been running bases since last July, and he has in his chase career he's run 8 times. He's finished first 3 times and finished second 3 times. So he's a good consistent horse. He high enough. He 145. Like he would have been top weight in the all novice chase. I think like there's a bit of money gone in him over the last day because it is his nominated target. I think he could be well handicapped. I was very close to tipping Dana Court in this, but I was looking at her. She's up 18 pounds for her few runs this year. It is a while since she's been out. This is a very tough race, and like I was very close to putting nothing up in it, but Bustleton stood out for me. I think he'd definitely get a run, and not a great price now, but you could definitely see him going very close.
And let's kick on, Rixie. You're sitting this one out, I know, and I think the next. But if you want to say anything on either, please do. But we'll skip on to the Kim Muir. Do you want to say anything, Rixie?
No, I don't think it looks a good race, to be honest. It looks very. Yeah, the play, it doesn't look a great race, and sometimes it can turn out like this. So if there's a novice going in there, I'd be interested in Gordon Elliott's Grand Parody, but I just think he's a little bit kind of raw for my liking, and if the vibes are right about Fusel Raffles, I think he could go well, because obviously his career best came over this course and distance, and he's been given a chance as well by the handicapper. So those were 2 I'd mention, but it looked a bad race. Nothing kind of stood out properly for me to mention, but then I did mention 2, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah, we had a shout from Grant for Fusel Raffles of 149. Let's kick on then to the Kim Muir. Riders are very important for this, as we know, and you can tell us a bit more about that, Matt.
Yeah, the stat is that Jamie Codd's ridden 11 losers in this race. Count them, lads, that's 11 losers. Clearly no good. So he's had his cup of tea, and he's been jocked off the anti-post favourite Frontal Assault, which leads nicely into another stat, which is that ignoring last year when the horses were professionally ridden, jockeys who claimed are 2 from 96 since the race switched to the new course. Deliberately use the phrase jockeys who claim rather than claiming jockeys, because it's not the same thing. And there's been some confusion about this. There have been media quotes saying Gordon has said Rob James will ride Frontal Assault and claim £7. As an amateur rider's race, the claims are different. You can only claim 7 until you've won 5 races. In the professionals races, it's up to 20 races. So according to the Racing Post website, Rob James has won 12 races under rules, so he could only claim £3 here. But he's a very experienced rider, won a couple of 100 points in Ireland. He was excellent on Milan Native in this a couple of years ago. So, yeah, that's a crucial point about this trend. If you've got a gun Irish point jockey you can claim, great. If you've got a crack amateur on their way to carving out a career as a professional, then the fact they're claiming shouldn't put you off. The other winner was Ryan Hatch. But the gun Irish amateurs are so much better than most of the amateurs in this. They're often worth £10 or more. So it's very much a case of know your claimer, otherwise stick to the top jockeys.
So what if you don't I mean, do you know who's riding your selection?
Yeah, Rob James is riding Frontal Assault.
I've got you.
So he'll be claiming £3 on that. As you say, if anyone's not familiar with him, go and watch that video on Milan Native. That could have been Jamie Codd or Derek O'Connor. Yeah, he's well found at the front of the market, you might think, but Mount Ida went off 4.0 last year. It wouldn't surprise me if Frontal Assault goes off a similar price, or if Gordon's mopping up the handicaps even shorter. Since the race was switched to the new course, 8 of the 13 winners have come from the front three in the market. The value tends to be close to the front of the market, and I think he can outclass these.
Okay, DC, who do you like?
I have two for this. So I'm tipping an English horse first and go for Commodore, Venetia Williams' horse. Now, she had the second last year with the Cloudy Glen at a massive price. And Commodore was entered in the Ultima, but he came out of it today. This is his only entry left in the week. So if he turns up, I'd be very interested. I mean, he'd probably have Hugh Nugent on. Has course distance form, is in here off 142. This is a really tight handicap. If you go from just put him in numbers order, there's only £6 between number 1 down to 25. This is a bit like the old novice handicap chase, where there could only be a couple of pounds between the whole field. It'll be a lot more competitive than people think, I'd say. And the other one then I had is I just have to put up old Glenlow. Maybe this could be the year. I know Tom, you have him as well, but
I do. Now, will Cod ride him?
I imagine Derek O'Connor will have the choice of the McManus horses, won't he? And I'll go from there. I think Cod is on Brayside, isn't he? No, sorry, Smoking Gun. He's on Brayside in the 4 miler.
Our producer is all over that. He's just said Cod is on Smoking Gun. Very good when he's
it has to have a small saver bet anyway on Glenlow, because Jesus, we've anti-post dockets in the bin for years over him. But if he turns up, so he's probably still well handicapped. He's been well handicapped since 2019, I'd say.
I like Glenlow, and I think I'll check to see. I think the point is you want to know who's riding. That's something that having done previews with Matt over the years is no good if you like a horse and then don't know who the rider is, because ultimately, you're probably not going to back winners in this consistently if you're going down that route. But yeah, tentative Glenlow for me, Frontal Assault for Matt. We did have a question that says, is Glenlow too short now? I mean, sort of 5.5. I guess I don't know. Is it what in the crystal ball? What price does Frontal Assault go off, Matt?
Well, as I say, Mount Ida went off 4.0 last year. I think if Gordon's having a good week, he isn't. I doubt he'll go off any shorter than that. The only thing is if people do look at the Jamie Codd factor and come for Smoking Gun. But I think that people will fairly quickly realise how good Rob James is, because he's going to ride in a few of these races. So I think he'll go off shorter than he is now, I mean.
Okay, let's move on to the Friday and the county. Last two we're going to get through for you. The county hurdle, first of all. Straight back at you, Matt, for the trend. Then we'll come to Rixie.
Yes, the trend here is that in the last 27 renewals, handicap debutantes are 1 from 81. Now, I often talk about the importance of knowing when races are changing so that trends cease to be relevant. This is one that you have to have on that list. Modern training methods, more education gained at home now. The 2 mile handicap hurdles often aren't run at the breakneck pace they used to be. And perhaps most importantly, the concentration of the best horses in such few hands. Touched on this earlier. Horses like the anti-post favourite State Man and Top Bandit would have run in the Supreme had they not been in a yard that has so many other candidates. So the county is getting a better class of novice and so handicap debutant now. But they are generally very short in the running, in the betting. And the fact that only 2 of the last 15 winners have gone off shorter than 11.0, I still think it's an angle to be taking on handicap debutants at short prices in this.
And I suppose that 1 from 81, that one was Sam Weil, wasn't it, a couple of years ago? So it's a more recent one.
That's right, yeah.
Rixie, who do you like?
Yeah, mine was a bit of an 11th hour pick because I thought the horse wasn't going to run. Connection said he wasn't going to run. That's Colonel Mustard. It sounded like they were going to go straight to Aintree, but I think they've had a change of mind and he's going to come here. I think he's been given a real chance by the handicapper, to be honest. He's a second season novice because he didn't win last year, but he's got plenty of experience. Maybe he's got plenty of good experience, but not enough maybe to suggest that he's kind of exposed. I think he's still going the right way. He's coming here off the back of a career best behind Sir Gerhard and Three Stripes Life at the Dublin Racing Festival. And look, I just think he's been given a chance. That the time of that race that Sir Gerhard clocked stood up very well to what Honeysuckle did in the Irish Champion Hurdle, and it was at a course and distance. There was a course and distance handicap run and the race after, I think, or two races after. And at the time was, again, good. And I would rate lower in general just because I try and make horses work for a mark. I've got him on 140 and the BHA handicapper's got 140. And from my own point of view, that's generally a good sign because I tend to rate kind of lower than them. So I think he's been given a right chance. He travels well. He jumps fine. The one little worry I had was maybe he hung a bit left in the straight at Leopardstown the last day. Maybe he needed the race. I don't know. But if connections have got him right and in better nick again, I just think, I think he's about 14 to 1 there, or 16.0, 17.0, should I say, at the moment. And I can see that price only going one way if Sir Gerhard wins and Three Stripes Life runs well. And he's obviously got form at Ascot with John Bon earlier in the season, although, as we all know, that was a joke race. So, I like Colonel Mustard for this. I could just see his price shortening up pretty. I could see him easily going off something like 9 or 10s on the day.
Yeah, 17.0 currently. Much more sensible than any fool that thinks State Man is value. DC.
Yeah, I like State Man. Second to Bustleton on his debut in France. Look, there's been plenty of money for him in this race all week. He was, I think he was 11.0 this time last week, and there was a big move from 9.6 into 7.8 the other day. So they obviously think he's coming here. And like he said, we did this a few years ago with Sam Raw. Now I would be encouraging anyone to take 5.6 now or whatever he is now, but I'd say he's a good horse. The vibes are good. There's a good few other horses on my shortlist that I hadn't tipped. West Cork is obviously a serious contender. West Cork is best Cork. The Greatwood form is always something to watch out for in this race. But another horse I was looking at in the Greatwood was Jesse Evans. Jesse Evans is actually sent off favour for the Greatwood, which absolutely punted off the borders during the week. Finished ninth, just didn't seem to get into the race at all. But just had it was her third run in the space, or his third run in the space, 6 weeks. So maybe that affected him. He's been put away since, probably waiting for a bit of better ground. Should get in. Again, he's going to be a nice big price, and this is the kind of race I think that suits him. So I'll stick with the two of them for the moment: State Man and Jesse Evans.
You definitely get in, and I think just on that, Matt, if I can come back to you, I know we're well over an hour here, but I think it's if we're doing it, we'll do it properly. I think we're going to see some horses who wouldn't normally get into this, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah, and I think that's a trend generally. I think that what I've done is ignored last year because of COVID and taken the average of where in the original weight, what number in the original weights the cut has fallen over the previous 5 years. If you do that, we're not going to get a full field in any of the 4 handicap chases, and the cut's going to come on relatively low marks in the handicap hurdles. So it could be about as low as 127 here on that basis. Now, this is all very speculative. Every year is different, but I'd definitely be encouraging people to look at some of those horses further down the list. So many punters want to get a run for the effort of thinking of what they want to back, that they just don't back the horses lower down, even though they're non-runner, no bet, even though anti-post, if they're entered, you either get balloted out, you get your money back. And so they're often artificially big prices.
And that's why I'm looking at Carrera as one for Emmett Mullins. Now, the interesting thing, he's rated 127. So you'd imagine that Emmett is thinking, I need to run him. He's entered in the Imperial Cup. And if he's decked for the Imperial Cup, he could get that £5 penalty. It's £5, isn't it? £5 penalty if he wins. And then he'd definitely get in, but he might get in anyway. And I don't know. I think he's a big price. I think he's very interesting for a pretty shrewd operator. He is also a possibility for the next handicap we're going to be looking at, the Martin Pipe. But it was an angle with Langer Dan last year, who was available at 41.0 for the Martin Pipe before he won the Imperial Cup. So you might want to look at those decks for Imperial Cup and say, right, who's likely to go on to run at the festival? And if they win, or even if they run well, you're sitting on a nice ticket for them to back up at the festival. So that was the angle there. The other thing I will do is I will back a horse for Willie Mullins, who is seemingly unconsidered, who is a hold-up type, who has got form on the flat, because Wicklow Brave did it. Who was the other fellow that did it? Arctic Fire.
Build Me Up Buttercup ran well as well, kind of similar profile in this.
Yeah. I think it's a great profile, and they'll go off at 26.0 and hold up tight, because that tends to be where you want to be in the county. Flat form, I'll definitely back one of those. I'll just see what exactly is lining up. I think Whiskey Sour's in there as a possibility, and there's another couple as well. So we'll see. Matt, who is your selection for this?
Magic Tricks, the Liffey handicap hurdle as it now is, at the 2 mile handicap at the Dublin Racing Festival. Historically, a very good trial for the county, produced 5 winners this century. For a time, the divergence in handicapping systems meant that runners from that Leopardstown race weren't getting a run, but that's changed now. So I'd expect it to produce more winners of the county. And Magic Tricks has been knocking on the door in these 2 mile handicaps. And the markets and the vibes from the Elliot McManus axis suggested they don't think he's getting exposed by going up in the weights for not winning, that they still think he can win one. He's a full brother to Abacadabras, and both breeding and on form, you'd expect the likely better ground at the Dublin race than at the Dublin Racing Festival to bring about further improvement. He's been given a rise of £7 from his Irish mark, so he is up to 151 now, but about 24.0 looks a big price. And one of the advantages of betting on the Matchbook exchange rather than with the sports books is obviously the place market. He also is one I'd look at playing in the place market. He's got a really solid profile for this.
Trevor likes Ganapathy and the Devil's Coachman and Whiskey Sour for the county. He also says this is the best preview I've heard so far. Well done. Trevor, money's in the post. But thank you. That's very kind. Let's kick up. Did we all go on the county, chaps? We did, didn't we? Let's move on to the head scratcher, the Martin Pipe. Matt, all yours.
Yeah, many punters seem to approach handicaps on the basis that only horses have been plotted up can win. And if you won last time, you've shown your hand to the handicapper. But the stat is that last time out winners are 6 from 64 and there's 48% profit. And in fact, last time out winners are profitable to back blind in 4 of the 5 handicap hurdles at the meeting for this century. The biggest profits come in this and the Coral Cup, i.e. the handicaps at intermediate trips where there's no open grade 1. And these 2 handicaps often therefore attract the graded conditions race horses. This is often won by an embryonic grade 1 winner. And so I'm generally looking for a potential class act here, and they've often come in on the back of a win.
And for that reason, Matt, you are with who?
Chemical Energy, another one of Gordon's. He's been very open all season, saying that this was his Martin Pipe horse. He explicitly said it in the Racing Post stable tour back in the autumn. Chemical Energy won 2 of his 3 starts, all in the autumn, both over this sort of trip. In between, he was a good 10 lengths second to my mate Mozzie, who I think is a good horse on good ground over 2 miles. Gordon put him away after that. He beat a solid yardstick in Lunar Display at Fairyhouse in November. He looks nicely handicapped off 137 here.
I'm with the last time out winner as well in the form of IA Connect, another one of Gordon's. I assume the horse is going to go here, but I would wait till the day just because I think it's really hard. I want to know the shape of the race, but I'm not going to be trying to be too clever, looking too far down the betting either. Rixie, who are you with? You got a short list, right?
Yeah, I've got plenty in this race, to be honest. They're down at the bottom of the handicap as well, so hopefully they get in. But I do like. I think Might Eye would probably be the main kind of pick, but I do Banbridge and O'Fleuron of Gordon Elliott's are on the shortlist as well, and Kim Bailey's Fair Frontier. He's another horse that could go well. Might Eye's obviously got that form behind Constitution Hill and John Bond this season. He's been running well. I thought he shaped better than the distance beaten a little bit at Haydock last time in the Rossington Main behind John Bond. He was a little bit unlucky. Sean, he kind of jumped into a horse 5 out and kind of ran up his backside, which is no good. And then Sean Bowen, when the pace was increasing, he probably made his biggest move in the race as well. And I just thought late on that he flattened out because of that late. He's actually a half brother to Statler, who goes in the National Hunt Chase. So on pedigree, it looks like he could really improve again, stepping up and trip. He's got that touch of class to travel through the race well. Harry Fry's team are in good order. I think before the racing today, they were 3 for 8 in the last 2 weeks, so they're in good form. So yeah, I like those. I do like O'Fleuron as well. If Gordon Elliott's, if he gets in, he's just for a novice, he's a really straightforward horse. Races on a loose rein. He jumps well. Can race behind the bridle a little bit, but he looks for 2 or 3 starts this year. He looks like he's been crying out to go up to 2.5, but Gordon hasn't run him. And I think this has been the plan for a little while. Look, it's been the plan for a lot of horses. We know that, but I like him on pedigree. He's another who will definitely step forward for going up in trips. So yeah, if I had to put forward 2 now, Might Eye would be the main one, and then if Gordon Elliott's O'Fleuron, if he gets in as well, I like him. But his form ties in with Banbridge of Joseph O'Brien. So this is another race. Obviously, the jockeys will have a good say in as well. Conditional riders. It'll be interesting to see who Shane Fitzgerald rides. I think I'd give him a shout. He's been riding very well in Ireland this season. So whoever he rides, he could ride Banbridge and take 3 or 5 pounds off his back, which is another plus to his chance. So yeah, those are kind of plenty on the short list there.
Our esteemed producer has suggested that Might Eye is out or not going to run. But I'm looking around. Yeah,
Harry Fry said that today.
Okay, I missed that. That's a shame, because I backed him yesterday.
So hang on. So just to confirm, DC, you knew that, and you let Rixie make his case, right? You just let him go. That's what happened, right? Yeah.
Didn't want to be interrupting.
No, that would have been really rude of you to interrupt a completely pointless 1 minute. So yeah. How do you feel about that, Rixie? Like, I'd be annoyed.
It just added to the rest of the pointless minutes I've had. So yeah.
He put up 7 or 8 other horses. So
no, he did.
Cheers for statement earlier, though. DC, you really worked your bollocks off for that one.
yeah.
I'll tell you about that.
Right, go on, DC. Then you can take it away. You're a lay here, are you?
Look, I've not really bet in this race yet. I just couldn't come down to one. I just tweeted this out last night that like the Langerdine is going to go off too short for this because everyone thinks he's well in on last year, so I'll just lay him because he won't win. There'll probably be 5 or 6. That
was some joke piece of handicapping, wasn't it? How has he dropped 3 pounds for that last year? Honestly, that's an absolute disgrace. How has he been dropped 3 pounds?
Yeah, the fix is in. It still won't matter. They could have dropped in 23 pounds. There'll be 5 or 6 gardening horses that'll go past them, I'd say.
Here's the interesting thing with Langerdine, because I was on him last year, before the Imperial Cup, right? That was going to save my festival. Didn't happen. You can either look at it and say, well, look, he didn't win it last year, and he's higher, but he's not going to win it this year. But is there a case that anyone thinks that, well, he's a year older? I know he hasn't had much racing. But how can you justify him being that price at the top of the betting? Is it because we know enough about him to suggest he should be that price?
Probably because Gallopin de Champ turned into an absolute fecking machine.
Yeah, but there might be another Gallopin. There might be, do you know what I mean? This is the race where you have an Irish future Grade 1 winner. So there might be another one.
Could be, but like he's clearly been laid out for the race. They came a long way clear of horses the last day. I think that Dan Skelton said at the start of the season, even this was kind of the plan. It's not as if he's been off with an injury and, there's doubts about him. He had a run to blow away the cobwebs and he's been dropped 3 pounds. Honestly, there's going to be a lot of chat about the handicap in this year of British horses being dropped kind of more. But I honestly don't know how any handicapper could justify this horse being dropped, given what Galopin's gone on to do. He won a grade 1 at the Punchestown Festival on his next start. They were miles clear of the third. If anything, he should have been raised, I would have thought, but that's only my own view. So, and I've got no dog in the fight with Britain and Ireland. I don't really care. All these horses could be Jamaican. I just want to back them all. I don't really care where they're from. Like,
I'd love to be shouting for them because Langer is a great Cork ward that has about 6-7 different meetings, and everyone in the room back to last year because we're all from Cork. We're like, go on, you Langer, go on.
And that's actually a true story as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah. There won't be any more of that this year.
Matt,
the Langer Dan and West Cork double, no? That could go well.
Well, yeah, might have 5 each way on that.
Yeah, he's got the advantage this year that last year he was arriving 6 days after winning the Imperial Cup. So he's had a nice little blow away the cobwebs run, as Rixie was saying, this year. Also, I thought he was given a lot to do last year. I think they might have thought he was a bit of a steering job, and they didn't, because Galopin and Champ, I think, had been 100-1 on his previous start. So, yeah, I still think he's got plenty of improvement in him, and he's, as we've said, the handicapping is very lenient.
Right, that's all the handicaps done. We're throwing in a little segment for top trainer because I know a few of you fancy, you'll never guess who, DC and Matt. So go on, you can take it away between the two of you. You think who's value?
Well, Gardinelli has to be the value. I think he's available at 3.0, a bit more. Like Gardinelli could win all the handicap hurdles. He could have the first 3 or 4 horses home in a few of the handicap hurdles. Man with something to prove as well this year. I think like if he doesn't have a winner for the rest of the season after Cheltenham, he'll be fine as long as he has numerous winners at Cheltenham. And I think that it's between him and Willie Mullins, and I think they should be probably a bit closer in the prices than they are. Willie Mullins is 1.44 and Gardner is 3.0.
Matt?
Absolutely echo that. He won in 2017, 2018. Only lost it on countback of thirds in 2020. Probably won it last year. Had all the horses stay where they originally were. But he's got 30% of the horses with an entry in the handicaps. On simple weight of numbers, you'd expect him to win 2.7. And then you look at the markets, you'd expect him to do a fair bit better than that. Twice in the last 4 years, he's won 4 of the handicaps. I think he might do that or even better this year. And the top trainer market is priced up with too much emphasis on the conditions races, which is Willie's strength. I think he's cracking value in that. I wouldn't have much between them in the market.
I remember Dave Neverson, who big punter I worked with at Racing TV, he year upon year when he came back to Racing TV would just back Willie Mullins, and he'd back him at whatever he was, 1.8, and he said he should have been 1.2, or I'm paraphrasing. Anyway, the year that him and Elliott were level going up to the last race, he'd had an absolute wedge on Mullins at a stupidly short price, and I think it was the first 2 days Mullins hadn't had a winner. Anyway, the man was white for 4 days, and eventually Mullins did it, didn't he? Was it the last race he copped it?
5 winners at there.
Yeah. I'm not sure that, Dave will testify it wasn't worth it. He's absolutely crapping himself. Anyway, we move on. Right, best lays, everybody. So, best place lay we've got here, because it's the nature of it being the handicap, so there's slightly bigger prices. I've got 2. I'll kick us off. I just think State Man is an absolute take-on job, because he's priced up on the fact that where's he going to go? He's going to go to county, and actually he doesn't fit that lovely trend being a handicap debutant. I think Gaelic Warrior as well is just a stupid price at 3.5 for the Boodles when it normally goes to a far bigger price. So I'll be place laying both of those. They might fill the places, but there you go. I think they're take on jobs. Matt.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on State Man. We're guessing a bit about the prices, obviously, on the day, but in the last 13 renewals of the county hurdle, a clear favourite's only been placed twice. So it is a very unpredictable race, not just for the winners, but also for the places. So he could be the next big thing, but he's very inexperienced, and I'd fancy him to bomb out entirely.
Rixie, your best place lay?
I went with Does He Know, just for the simple reason I actually do like him as a horse. but I don't like his prep. That meeting at Ascot earlier in the season, I think it was a couple of years ago, Sporting John and a few of those won at that meeting, and they were just absolutely legless when they came to Cheltenham a few weeks later. The ground at Ascot was very soft that day, probably verging on heavy by the end of it. So I just don't like his race, and the race fell apart pretty badly as well, and he's been raised £5. So yeah, I'll stick up Does He Know?
DC?
Yeah, my place there is Gaelic Warrior on the Boodles. It's purely a price thing. If he's going to be 1.5 to place, that's basically a 2-to-1 bet that he won't come in the top four. And that's a nice bit of value, I think, in a 22-runner race.
And Grant Thomas says Brandy Love the best lay. Very good. Very good. Superb.
Gently. We're not past the watershed yet.
Matt's keeping a straight face, trying to pretend he doesn't know that Brandy Love is a porn star.
Yeah, exactly. You can explain to me when I'm a bit older.
Yeah. So Brandy Love, what's that? Best bets, everybody. Best bets for the handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival. DC, straight back to you.
My best bet for the handicaps is before midnight in the Grand Annual.
Rixie, your best bet?
My best bet in the handicaps is going to be Khalil T. Briggs in the Ultima handicap chase on the opening day.
Kill Teely Briggs for you. And DC, your best bet? Matt, your best bet? Just testing, just making sure you're all paying attention. Matt Toombs, your best bet?
There are some bets where you have nothing changes in the market before when you go a bit colder on them. Sometimes the opposite happens. I backed Saint Felicien a few days ago, and every day I've woken up and thought I need to have more on him. I'm just getting more and more convinced he's a grade 1 horse in the handicap. And if inexperience doesn't catch him out, I think he'll outclass these.
I'm a bit sold on that. I might follow you in there. My best bet in the handicaps for Cheltenham is Tullybeg in the Pertemps, because looks like he's definitely going to run. I think if he'd run his qualifier more recently, he'd be a lot shorter. Whereas people have just slightly forgotten that. I think a little bit about Tullybeg in the Pertemps. There we go. We're all done. We got through all of those handicaps. Guys, thank you ever so much. Appreciate it, in particularly because that was a tall order. There are so many horses I know you've had to go through. So appreciate it. Thanks for everyone's comments. Don't forget, £25 free bet for someone for every 20 comments we get, where you comment your festival handicap nap. Who do you most like? You can do that on the YouTube video or comment on Twitter underneath the video after the recording, whenever you like, and we'll pick out some of you for a £25 free bet. For now, we will say thank you very much indeed. DC?
Can I just jump in there for 1 second? Just for anyone watching this right now, if you're thinking of opening a Matchbook account, maybe wait till Saturday. Good offer.
Oh, inside info.
Good offer coming. Wait till Saturday. If you're watching this on Wednesday night or Thursday night, just wait a few days. There's a good offer coming for Cheltenham, so hold off.
It's for new customers only. So...
New customers only.
So wait, there you go. If you're thinking about doing it, just hang on a bit. Good stuff. Matt, thank you very much indeed, as ever. Brilliant trends. Declan, lovely to have you on board. Great stuff. And DC, thank you very much indeed, as ever. We will be talking to you each and every day of the festival, where we'll have a team running through every single race for every day of the festival. And that'll be quick fire stuff, because we'll know you've watched loads of previews. So it'll be quick fire stuff each and every day of the festival. See you then. It's not far away. Bye-bye.